Thank you, Igor, for that swift introduction. I was very interested with the Sudan news because I'm partly South Sudanese, so it was a very good thing coming up from my brother. I think I'll take it up with Mohammed after this.
Absolutely looking forward for that.
Yeah, so I'll just share my screen. Just 1 minute. I'll just share the whole screen anyway. Yep. So sorry for I was converting it from Microsoft Word to another file, but so you'll excuse me kindly excuse me for the logo, our logo not appearing well on the side or on the presentation, but I'll just take it up from there. I hope everybody's can be able to see my screen. If I can just get one yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I'm one of the founders and CEO of BitAprica. It's a truly African decentralized exchange. We want to speak the African narrative, and it was a pleasure being given this topic because this is one of the roles we're playing as BitAprica to front digital technologies and transformations to the government. In this case, I will speak more about decentralized ledger technology or blockchain technology in regards to the roles governments and central banks should play. Here, we all know about the narrative of Africa from aspects of banking than banked. We have many people who receive funds from different works they do all over the world. It's quite cheaper. We know the narratives that have empowered ecosystems. Like here in Kenya, we have Sarafu blockchain, which is powered by Red Cross. And we've been so blessed, I'd say, to have all this, as Mohammed has rightly said, applications of digitizing government services on blockchain, but yet not many governments are creating a conducive environment for this technology. The picture or the presentation I have here in front of you guys is just a big overview representation of what we want to achieve. Partnership between us with the government in a way of a regulatory framework. Price level stability would be in the case where now we would introduce things like cryptocurrency, representation of the fiat currencies on chain, like for example, like Kenya shillings digital currency, and now create training and the likes to ensure mass adoption. What is the outcome of this? You'd clearly say we could enable fast and cheaper transaction border payments. We are blessed to have M-Pesa, but I believe we can do much better. We would create an improvement of financial inclusion. I always say financial inclusion is not only access to funds, but also education. So you'd give somebody an ability for him to access or her to access his funds or her funds, but as well give them education around it. So this is what we are looking at as an overhaul here in Africa. Here is just a map of the countries that have a friendly approach to cryptocurrencies. We look at most of them, including my country, South Sudan and Kenya. At least Kenya, we have a friendly approach to it, but there's a lot of uncertainty because we here who are in blockchain or cryptocurrencies, if your accounts are linked to anything to do with it, it's flagged, or you're told to come and to withdraw your funds from that account. So it's becoming a very unconducive environment for us to brew a company like BitAprica and others that are around. So we are hoping to see an all-green map in the next 5 to 10 years, using the initiatives that we are doing and fronting such initiatives through forums like Futurism. And it's a pleasure to be on this call to actually be able to explain to the world what we're trying to achieve and what an environment we're facing. So that said, we'd want to look at what us as a company, as BitAprica, and the regulatory objectives that would want to achieve in a continent like Africa. We spoke about financial inclusion, financial stability, financial integrity, and consumer protection. Just to touch on each quickly, as I said, we are trying to create this narrative of banking the unbanked, and we believe with blockchain or decentralized ledger technologies, this can not only be achieved in the geographic location of Kenya, but it can also enable us to unlock extensive collaborations with the world. M-Pesa is there. It works very perfectly. It's created a very good narrative of Kenya. It's been a very good front runner, but I believe incorporating decentralized technology would then give it that aspect of an update, going a step or a notch higher. Financial stability in this case, we'll be looking at diversification of deposit bases and loan portfolios. A case example is many of our youth here in Kenya are actually getting finances out of the purportedly traditional financial services. These are the banks and M-Pesas and the likes. So we are going now using platforms on blockchains like Polygon and the likes to access easy loans without KYCs and the likes. We have consumer protection. We all know the narrative of Ponzi schemes in Africa. We have a lot of that here, and it's becoming a stigma. Whenever you talk cryptocurrency to people, they relate to you as a con man. So there is no proper definition and right regulations around this space to enable to onboard the masses that we have here in Africa in this beautiful technology. And this has to go down to what regulations we can put in place. So again, what's the way forward in terms of now the innovation between us, the private sector and the government? What we're looking for is a certain environment, be it the innovation offices, regulated sandboxes. I will go through it later in the presentation, but just an overview of what we're trying to achieve. And now the financial innovation, that is now us. This enables us to be able to have an improvement in the market. Hence, objectives would be the inclusion, as we just rightly said above, up there, financial stability, integrity, and the protection of the consumers in light of all these Ponzi schemes and the likes. So it plays a key role here compared to the other side down here, where we have the regulatory inertia, where there's a lot of back and forth with the government regarding this. And we find ourselves 5-10 years. Picture countries who would say no to the internet in 1994. Where would they be? So this is the same narrative we're giving the governments, that in 2029 or 2035, would have to play a catch-up game with the world. So we need to start now. How do we start? I'll start with the simple pointers, which are innovation offices. It's basically a dedicated function with a regulator, which engages with people like us and other stakeholders in purposes of support, cutting cost of building. BitAprica has been in a position where we've built a very good interface where clients would be able to plug in M-Pesa wallets to our platform and be able to real-time convert cryptocurrency to fiat and vice versa. But because of regulations, we were shut down. So you can imagine the amount of cost we put in terms of development with our developers and marketing and everything, and then we faced this blockade. Until now, we are still trying to find a way. But then luckily we have other products in terms of decentralized exchange. We do not need much of government interaction. Innovation offices as well would enable us to have a kind of a checklist in terms of compliance going forward, if there is a proper roadmap to what we're trying to achieve in terms of mass adoption of cryptocurrency. Secondly, what we're encouraging our government to do is to build a certain innovation office services in things like Central Bank of Kenya and other central banks alike in Africa. We would have certain office hours where we'd have interactions with them, dedicated helplines, and how to guide us regarding this approach. Unfortunately, we're having a lot of countries where these offices are being set by people who are not conversant with these new technologies coming on board. So innovation offices would enable young guys to come on board and be able to give them a chance to be able to bring governments up to speed. If not, another option, and this is what we are heavily in Kenya, is the regulatory sandboxes. It's just a formal, it's a formal regulatory program for market participants to test financial services. In our case here, we are approaching two bodies under the Treasury. We are approaching the Central Bank of Kenya and the Capital Markets Authority. What we're trying to tell them is, if we have a sandbox, it will enable them to have a look at what we're trying to build. There's no fear. There's always fear of the unknown, but it is only unknown because you've not tried it. So this sandbox will enable regulators to plug in, companies like us, BitAprica, to plug in, and now banks to plug in. Because in our case, we wanted to be in these regulatory sandboxes because of aspects of enabling our clients to use the traditional financial platforms like banking apps, M-Pesa, to buy or to interact with cryptocurrency on our platform. So to do this, it is best to have this regulatory sandbox for us to have this conducive environment. And from there, then we can work on the licenses. So what are the benefits of these sandboxes? On the regulator sides, it promotes the government to understand long-term policy making through learning and experiencing what we are building, or what were the outcomes of this sandbox experience. It enables them as well to be committed in innovation and learning, promotes communication and engagement with the market, and updates regulations that may prohibit beneficial innovation. So if somebody is coming with all these Ponzi schemes or products that will be able to skim people's money out of the net, if it goes through that, it will go through a scrutiny that would force these companies not to be able to exploit. Most of these companies that come here to create this environment where guys are being paid by Bitcoin and the likes, and all of a sudden cash, their money is lost, it's because there's no one overlooking them. There's nobody scrutinizing their system. For innovators like us, it reduces the time to market. As I said, we had a product, very good product, where we had a development phase of 5 months, and now we've spent over a year trying to contact to tell the government to give us a way to launch it. So it takes the life out of our innovation. The uncertainty around new technologies and business models can be prohibited. Again, back to us. We can gather feedback on regulatory requirements and risks. We can improve access to capital. Many of investors out there are looking at companies like ours to invest in. But what is the blockade? It's not a regulatory. It's not a good environment for regulation. So they take 2-3 steps back. They say, let's wait for the government. So it takes the life out of us in terms of accessing finance out there. And the consumer side, again, I will emphasize this, promotes introduction of new and potential safer products, something that will not skim them, but rather be able to improve their financial status. It increased access to financial products and services. What I meant earlier about regarding people borrowing and lending out there without any proper bank statements or the likes. You just have your Bitcoin and you can borrow an X amount backed by your BTC or Ethereum and the likes. We look at the challenges and outcomes of this. This chart just gives us a
Douglas, I'm sorry. Douglas, we're almost out of time.
No worries.
I'm really sorry.
Okay, let me jump down to. I'll just jump down here in terms of the principles of innovation. I think I can freely share this document. Then now we have a picture of us going to see the Treasury Minister. It was a good interaction. We were hoping that it will give us to fast track our issue with regulations and everything. So it's still ongoing. We thank Honorable Ukur for this opportunity. And we hope that we'll be front runners of innovation in East Africa. So if we're out of time, I don't know if I have any time for questions and answers, Igor. But if there's anybody who want to reach out, you feel free. That's my contact in terms of my email. Yeah. And you're welcome to view us on our website. It was a very prompt introduction of myself and the topic of discussion, but I understand time is of the essence. So thank you very much for your time, Igor, and thank you for listening, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Douglas. Yeah, that was really interesting and helpful. So yeah, just because of time, we have to really speed up because we're already 10 minutes late in the agenda.
Yeah.
So let's jump into directly to